Hello, I do not feel good. I'm recording this the morning after the US presidential election. I'm just gonna say a lot of people really like that guy. That's all I'm gonna say about that. And I am kind of I'm struggling right now. I'm having like technical difficulties. I'm on a time crunch. I read like 16 books in October, and I'm afraid that this is gonna have to be a really quick, really simplistic overview of everything that I read this month. Yeah. Let's get into it. I actually try a little bit in my videos to make things somewhat organized and like I try to make them make sense, but today I just don't have the wherewithal to do all of that. And so I'm just gonna go down the list that I have been making so that I don't forget about talking about any books, because I have done that in the past. So this is just all of the books that I've read in the month of October in random order. I read Be Ready When the Luck Happens by Ina Garten. I read this on audiobook because she reads it herself in her most encouraging, calm, comforting voice. And the audio also has like PDFs of photos. So I don't really feel the need to own a physical copy of this book. That's something that I've realized this year reading all the audiobooks that I have over the past couple years now. And I don't know, I feel like a lot of people mostly read ebooks for like, the same reason why most people hopped onto the iPod. I love physical media, but there is definitely something to be said about an audiobook. The warmth of Ina's voice really lends itself well to her memoir as she's talking about her own life. And I love this. I love this so much. I found this so uplifting, so encouraging, so empowering. Her brand of feminism, in my opinion, is the correct type of feminism where you should do whatever it is that you want to do. And so in her time during the 60s, when people were when women were getting out of the kitchen, but she wanted to get into the kitchen, that's just exactly what she did. And if she wanted to use box brownie mix instead of baking brownies from scratch, so what? So be it. And I find her style of food, her approach to food, isn't so by the books, by what the authorities of the matter have to say to that regard. Her approach is, it's the thought, it's the feeling, it's the overall mood that she's providing that counts. So yeah, do exactly what you want to do and don't let anyone shame or guilt or bully you out of doing it. I love that she just tells it straight. She was talking about being asked by Stephen Colbert during lockdown if she's going a little stir crazy, staying home with Jeffrey all the time. And her response was, no, of course not. It is a privilege and a joy, and she's incredibly lucky to be able to stay home with the man that she loves. Yeah, that's a luxury. And when she needed money, she worked for it and didn't spend. When she was offered help, she took it. It was just so refreshingly simple. It was absolutely cathartic. It just doesn't have to be complicated to be good. She embodies the earn this attitude. Her business sense is so laudable and should be talked about more. I took away a lot of lessons, and she provided perhaps the most convincing argument for why one should be a Taylor Swift fan, which to this day has honestly eluded me. This is a book of her memoirs, and just told very straightforwardly. The honesty brought me to tears. If you love Ina, obviously I know you're gonna read it, or just Ina curious. This is incredible. There's some like bombshells in here for you guys if you're Ina fans already that I was shocked by. But overall, I just really enjoyed getting to know more the woman that I've been loving for almost all of my life now. I read Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice. I read this as a Libby audio, and it was read by Simon Vance. I've heard so many good things about this book. I recently watched the show, which I find very good, and I've seen the 90s movie with Brad Pitt and Tom Cruise, and I, thought it was okay. I liked it, I suppose, but I never really understood concretely what the vampire motif is supposed to be about. And the recent show really provided me the clarity to that. It's talking about how being gay and otherwise being ostracized from your society, from your family, is very lonely. And like the 90s film, it was really, to me, just a bonkers story with broody Hollywood actors. But the book speaks to so much of domestic abuse. Lestat gets with Louis to seize his assets and even controls him by having a child with him. And I can't even fathom Kirsten Dunst's emotional intelligence when filming that bonkers role when she was only 10 years old. The film kind of just alludes to her more mature relationship with Louis, but the book makes that very, very clear. And I will be forever haunted by Claudia, the character, and her lamenting over who her Louis is going to be, who her life partner is going to be, and her eternal curse of living in a child's body, which is really speaking to irrevocably, have to insert that word, harming a child. Yeah, I just always struggled with that vampire metaphor. It has to be more than about sexual deviance stemmed from Victorian prudes. And now I get it. It could be in the sense of being in a very bad relationship, a violent, toxic relationship. I did kind of lol and find it very weird how everyone just seemed to be thirsting over Louis. It just felt very soap opera-y and very victimizing. And then I found out that Rice was basically trauma dumping from her grief over her dead child, which makes me feel very heartless, I concede, but I'm still gonna say that it feels very tacky. Yeah, overall, I just found that the show really takes the best from the OG source material and elevates everything about this story. It adds humor, clarity and vision, some chef's kiss writing with lines like, "You sound like every pompous Sorbonne student I've ever eaten." Yeah, maybe Southern Gothic is just not for me. So I'm happy to have read this. I do not feel compelled to continue on with the series, the book series. And for those of you who've yet to watch the show, highly recommend. I reread My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Ottessa Moshfegh purely because I saw that the audiobook is read by Julia Whelan. I was just so curious. To me, it seemed so incongruous, which I still find it to be the case. I mean, this book only came out back in 2018, but I don't remember what the marketing for this was. If this was meant to be this is a book for women, and it's yeah, maybe a little bit of mismarketing where they just paired the new up-and-coming writer with the top female audiobook performer, even though they both, I'm assuming, have very different audiences and just known for different things. But I'm very glad for this reread because I found that while Eileen, which, did I reread her? Yes, I did. I reread Eileen this year as well, back in January. So happy coincidence. So while Eileen is about the patriarchy within a suburban family unit, My Year of Rest and Relaxation is about the patriarchy more in a cultural, more broader societal context, using that ditzy BFF as the embodiment of the Cosmo consumerism, where women should be thin and pretty and obsessed about their looks and still be independent, but also still need a man, constantly on a diet, constantly comparing herself to other women, dissatisfied with everything in her life. The annoying Reva character is the nightmare that, unfortunately, a lot of us find in ourselves or in others in very close proximity, and gives credence for the nameless main character's desire for a pause. So I have to admit that in my first reading, I was totally convinced that the main character was on a suicide mission, where she says numerous times that she doesn't have a death wish and she really just wants a better life. I have to admit saying that I just didn't believe her. And I was convinced that she was kidding herself, probably because she was so so unlikable and she was so privileged and entitled. But that is just very unfair of me and also just very incorrect. And perhaps Moshfegh even meant for that to happen for readers. Like, she can be a manipulative bee. Probably more likely she's just pessimistic. The main character doesn't have a death wish. She really is just seeing the world as it is and deciding she doesn't like it and would like to go away until it goes away. And today, I think a lot of us are thinking about this plot and wishing to be either her, where she just goes to sleep for a year or maybe 4 years, or the best friend character who provides one of the most beautiful endings to a book that I've ever read. I think that this is probably Ottessa Moshfegh's best novel, but my favorite is still Eileen. I read Chess Story by Stefan Zweig. I've heard so many good things about this. This is a very short, but not brief, novella. Kind of a Slumdog Millionaire-esque story about how a mysterious man became a virtuosic chess player. Yeah, I don't really have any big or really any thoughts. I thought it was nice. I realized that it's about the tragedy of the human potential and its fragility, and that war and suffering is terrible. But yeah, ultimately I'm unmoved and I have nothing more to say. I know that a lot of you have read this. Let me know what you all thought of this, because other than those things, I don't know what else to think about it. I read Little Children by Tom Perrotta, and I found this copy with a movie poster that I actually like from my library store, and I love the film. Had no idea that it was a book. I wanted to read this to see how it compares, and I'm very happy to say that as much as I love the film, I love this book that much more. I find the film to be such an almost surface level adaptation. Just so many lines have been lifted straight from the book into the film. And yeah, the book is such a more fleshed out version of the story. I found this to be scarily relatable, despite it being set decades in the past, and about so many people who have made bad life choices and living miserable lives. But that's not to say that Perrotta writes them in a judgmental way. In fact, it feels much more like an explanation for why people are the way that they are. And that is the lens to view this examination of suburbia. Like, Perrotta empathizes with every single character, and I just felt so much for all of them and made me grumpy rethinking about the prejudices that I hold. The book and film endings are very different, and I much prefer the book ending because it just feels so much more real, more tragic, ties with the whole Madame Bovary theme. And I love the film. Like, I have to say again, it was my Patrick Wilson awakening. I read Herc by Phoenicia Rogers as a library audiobook, which was read by a cast of British voices with many varied accents that I wish I knew, like, all of the implications of each one better. Rogerson herself has a very extreme lisp that I, as an American, just do not get to hear anymore because speech therapy has obliterated it out of existence. But this is another feminist and queer retelling of Hercules to upend any, like, remnants of that Disney movie and my personal favorite, that Kevin Sorbo character. This Hercules eats a lot. If I had to pick just one takeaway, that would be it, that he eats a lot. And I don't mean that in the Gen Z way, in the very literal way. He goes both ways and has killed a lot of people, and it's supposed to be very complicated. Has anyone watched that Netflix series Chaos with Jeff Goldblum playing Zeus, which he plays to perfection, by the way? Yeah, I felt kind of similarly about that show as I did with this book. Like, I find both of them to be very delightful, to be very fresh and unique and very interesting. I'm just not sure how I'm supposed to feel about it. Like, there's a lot of dark humor, a lot of empathy and advocacy for the darker side of Hercules. Yeah, again, no deep thoughts, no big aha moments here. I'm really just happy that myself and others like me who grew up with Herc and Xena Warrior Princess and now as an adult enjoy all of the plethora of Greek retellings that we have now in novel form, including this one where Rogerson's imagination of Hercules is a misunderstood pansexual who really, when you think about it, lives a tragic life, and that his brawn ended up more of a curse than a blessing. I read The Stranger in the Woods, the extraordinary story of the last true hermit by Michael Finkel. I really enjoyed this. This was an extremely compulsive read. Finkel captivates you with the story of this singular individual, and then he backs it up with well-researched details like neurological studies and historical hermits. And he may be slightly treating the man as like some otherworldly guide to transcendence, but all is forgiven because this is just so much dang fun to read. There is a hermit association, like, oh my god. This is such a good like read for November nonfiction if you do that. I highly recommend. I read Ghosts by Dolly Alderton, and I have to say, I've come around a lot on Dolly Alderton. I really like this a lot. Guys, ghosting is so scary. There is no trust anymore. Like, why? How is there so much disconnection with someone who you really connected with? Yeah, I just found this incredibly jarring. The panic of our times. No wonder why people didn't take COVID seriously. Nothing is as scary as this. This is also a treatise for single people who feel microaggression by their married friends. I'm afraid I'm very guilty of saying some of these things verbatim. I will spend the rest of my life forever atoning. And this is also about growing up in your adulthood when you feel the pain of your deteriorating parents and the discomfort of settling into a new relationship with your parents now that you're both adults, and your exes and your BFFs, moving on in all the classic milestones that you wonder if you'll ever reach or if you ever will want to reach. The cruelty of hair loss. I hadn't anticipated that this merging of people would have meant this merging of selves. The contents of supermarket baskets are surely evidence that none of us are coping with adulthood all that well. I feel a bit tricked, to be honest. I've been told that I can buy anything I want, or work for it, or control it on an app, but I can't buy love. I can't get it on an app. The reading between the wines book club. I want a massive fry up and also fantasize whatever the hell that could possibly mean. Yes, loved. I read Intermezzo by Sally Rooney as a library book that I've since had to return because that shit was such a hot commodity. Yeah, I did not enjoy this. I really cannot take Sally Rooney's age fetish anymore. I just don't know why her being her age and him being his age is such a big deal. But I really did want to read this because I feel like at this point we're all kind of growing up with Sally Rooney, and I just want to be part of the discourse and see what everyone's talking about and is so agog about. But I have to say that I'm not seeing it. I'm not there with you. Like, even though I appreciate that she speaks to millennial ennui of the ways classism touches our lives and all the other aspects of our current existence, but she just writes it in a way that I feel so meh by. Like, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that she paints a portrait of contemporary young life, not just for a specific mumblecore set, but can speak to all, like how we communicate with each other or lack thereof, how it feels so uncool to wear our hearts on our sleeves, even though we really, really want to, and the dichotomy of our expectations versus the reality. But for this book, I found the biggest sin to be that it's way too self-absorbed. There's so much like me, my, I, and it was just way too long. And then she spends like the last, 2 pages of going like, perhaps, maybe, we? Yeah, I don't know why she made those choices. The Peter bits where they're like not full sentences, they were so hard to read, and overall I just found this to drag a lot. I probably started and finished 3 or 4 books in the course of reading Intermezzo. Yeah, I'm just not, I think it's solidly established, I'm just not a Sally Rooney fan. I read Knife, Meditations After an Attempted Murder by Salman Rushdie as a library audio read by the author. This was reflections in minute detail of his absolutely horrific traumatic experience, both the attack and the aftermath. Just a studied examination of how this life-changing experience came to be is bone-chilling. I mean, at best, this is trauma porn. At worst, it is excessive overthinking. It really speaks to the dichotomous resilience and fragility of a human life. Like, he survived, but the healing process is such a bitch. Like, please, don't ever get injured. Don't take your health for granted. It's grisly. The future rushes at him while he sleeps. You must take free expression for granted. If you are afraid of the consequences of what you say, then you are not free. Art is not a luxury. It stands at the essence of our humanity, and it asks for no special protection except the right to exist. I have to say, I have never read a Salman Rushdie book. I had no desire to. I still don't have a desire to. But for whatever reason, I was really compelled to read this memoir of this experience. It's almost like one of those, what you see when you are about to die, but you end up not dying. So I would say that this is another great November nonfiction type of book selection. It also made a great spooky season type of book because body horror is always traumatic. And even though I don't really care about Salman Rushdie, I really did enjoy this and I highly recommend it. I read The White Book by Han Gong, inspired by her Nobel Prize literature win. What a delightful surprise. However, the tone of this book does not match the celebratory mood that I was in. This book is very serious. It is as serious as a dead baby. It's all about like things that are white that have significance and meaning, like I guess within Korean context or culture, and they're all like very poetic vignettes of sad things, hardships of life that need to be endured, that all happen to be the color white, like the breast milk for a dead baby, snow that she is named after, even though cold must be endured, color and life bleached out, rained into white or nothing. Yeah, this was kind of like being shanked by Debbie Downer. It reminded me of my like pre-adolescent depressing non-rhyming poetry, but this is like much better. And overall, I guess I'm just happy to see that somebody like me has won such a prestigious award. Like, yay, represent. So I would only recommend this if you're in a mood for that, if you're prepared to be in a mood for that. But I do recommend like her novels over this, like definitely Human X, if not The Vegetarian. I read The Hobbit, or There and Back Again by J.R.R. Tolkien. Of course, I also listened to this on audio read by Andy Serkis. And I'm not going to say any new things or have any hot takes. This is wonderful. This is the epitome of an adventure book. I was very surprised that there's no Legolas in this, or no like Evangeline Lilly-esque Tauriel who thirsts after Keeley. And really, my overall take from my first read of The Hobbit, other than like that it was absolutely delightful, is that the Hobbit trilogy needs more love. Like, I remember watching them in theaters for each single one, how entranced I was. Like, in the book, The Hobbit, other than Thorin, not any other dwarf is really like individualized, singled out, but in the films, I mean, you know, I thirst for Aidan Turner as much as the next gal, but oh, Beaufort, he was just the nicest. And Thranduil, my absolute favorite character from the Hobbit trilogy, because I mean, come on, Lee Pace on that moose. He's just a woodland elf king in the book. And oh my god, Radagast. And I recently rewatched the Hobbit trilogy with my son, who like, I tried to get him to watch Lord of the Rings with me, but he would refuse. And because I said, no, this isn't Lord of the Rings, this is The Hobbit, he ended up watching, but he really got into it, and it made me so happy. Oh, and the best line, objectively, from the film is, if more people valued home above gold, this world would be a merrier place. That's the film line. But the book line is, if more of us valued food and cheer and song above hoarded gold, this world would be a merrier place. I mean, both are good, but come on. The films are so good. And yeah, I just laughed my ass off at Bilbo after everything that he went through. Still got huffy about people being untidy and careless in his house. People will remain people, or I guess hobbits. Very good. I read The Most They Ever Had by Rick Bragg as a library audio read by the author. I love, at this point, all of the Rick Bragg books that I've read, especially, like, you must read them on audio, read in his southern twangy voice. This one in particular are stories about people in Jacksonville, Alabama, who have worked the cotton and or in the cotton mills, and their cultural history from however well-intended union organizers who nevertheless fucked them over, and now forever onward, liberal bleeding hearts will be fucked over because they, the blue-collar working class, are continually snubbed, and this is what we get, our current existence. We deserve everything that we have. We don't deserve nice things. This is stories of pain and hardship and sacrifice, all glibly ignored. Like, no wonder why Republicans are so quick to denounce accusations of racism, which that is its own topic that Bragg does not get into in this book, to keep the focus tight on like the working class and work for honest pay. And if that's a concern, read more Rick Bragg books to know that he's not a Trumper. I feel like more people should read Rick Bragg. I guess especially now, especially for everyone who woke up this morning with a surprise. Look, I'm not gonna say that I was surprised by the outcome. I'm incredibly disheartened. I feel physically ill, probably because I might be getting a cold and because this just feels terrible. What I like so much about Rick Bragg is his unwavering in championing the blue-collar worker, and he provides an unsurpassed level of empathy and provides understanding the context to the question of why people seem to keep voting against their own interests. Like, why the poor working class consistently vote against unions and for Republican politicians who work against them. I don't know, if I kept doing my one-liner thing, it would be read this, not Hillbilly Elegy. I feel like they're both basically about the same thing, but this is more real. The secret to it is always in knowing that it would hurt you and you reach for it anyway. Yeah, really good. I read The Whalebone Theater by Joanna Quinn, and this, like, pretty hefty novel. I mean, first of all, I love everything about this book. I love its heftiness. I love the cover. I love the font and everything inside it. I think this is my favorite book of the month, even though there were very many top contenders. And this is like the World War II plotty book that I didn't know that I needed. Overall, this was just so much fun. It had everything. There is an array of memorable characters spanning generations over the course of the crazy tumultuous 20th century. We have an unconventional family structure with the children in this family to grow up relying on each other, relying on the books that they read, like the Iliad and Moby Dick, to help navigate the crazy world that they live in, and then let each other go off on their own to find out for themselves who they really are when they're on their own. At no point in time was I never not worried for Digby. I was just rooting for every character, really. And I'm pretty sure it was because of all of my George grieving that is the only reason why I did not shed a tear for this book. I was probably all cried out. And this is just one of those books where the whole time I was reading it, I would just get irrationally angry at any and everything that took me away from reading this book. It's like that Nora Ephron quote, "Don't they know that I'm reading the most wonderful book?" This is a wonderful book. I read Charlotte Moss Decorates, The Art of Creating Elegant and Inspiring Rooms by Charlotte Moss, and I really hated this book. I'm gonna just insert some quick video clips that I kept taking during my read of this and just leave it at that. But yeah, I do not recommend. I don't understand, like, when I finished this book and looked up how many other books, like, I just wanted to research who the hell is Charlotte Moss. I've never seen it. I think I just saw at Barnes & Noble that she has like a new book out, and I was curious and just went to my library and saw that there was this Charlotte Moss book there. And so I read it, and she has so many titles. How is she so beloved? How does she keep getting so many book deals? I don't know. How does this make sense? Like, you're supposed to sit facing like this way, and then these people are facing that way, and what? Coil your necklaces in decorative bowls so you can see everything at a glance. So this is the coiled, this is the decorative bowl with the coiled necklaces. If you have these necklaces, I guess why not? But this would never work, and it doesn't even look that good. No. Use a pair of faux books as a side table. That's a hard no from me, dog. This is some quite low res for an entire page of an image. No. That is such an ugly vase. That is such an ugly slipcover. That is everything. This is ugly. I hate this shade of yellow with this green. I hate this antler sconce thing. Just these cutouts, hideous. That's just abominable. Hideous. I would have immediately fired her. I would have been so angry. Everything is just blending together. It's hideous. Everything hurts, like, especially this. Why? This print is not worth this illegibility. What a waste of space. There is no need for a Mary Tyler Moore still to visualize the concept of single living. Last but not least, I guess, I read The Hamptons, Food, Family, and History by Ricky Lauren. And I really only read this because I read that big Ralph Lauren book last month and liked it so much, I wondered if it was the only book that Ralph Lauren wrote, and then I saw that Ricky Lauren wrote a book, which is this, and my library had it, so I was just looking through it, and it is essentially a cookbook and lifestyle book, also like a textbook on Hamptons history that she organizes by the neighborhood, like all the different neighborhoods within the Hamptons that they've lived in over the years. And yeah, did you know that the Hamptons is a great place to live and to raise a family? Well, if you don't, now you do. I mean, the recipes for the food foods that they ate, they're pretty standard. Cornbread is cornbread, soup is soup, salad is salad, fish is fish. The historical texts are mostly focused on like the artists who've lived in the Hamptons over the years. And overall, I found this to be an incredibly vanilla type of book. Like, not even Madagascar vanilla. Like, this is level 1 spice. But, you know, it was nice to read during the spooky pre-election season. I guess I would only recommend if you know absolutely nothing about the Hamptons and really enjoy the very vanilla-ness of the Ralph Lauren brand. So I read a lot of books in October. I don't know why I keep reading so many books every month. Sometimes it just happens that way. And I guess especially today, I'm reminded that it's good to be exposed to things that I would have otherwise not known about or didn't intentionally seek on my own. Kind of like the Rick Bragg, where I know that I like Rick Bragg, but like it's on Rick Bragg to tell me what he knows. This is Wednesday morning, guys, and I'm still processing. I really hope I'm not getting sick. I feel better about George this month. Grief is slowly passing. Don't get sick, but do get dogs, even though they leave you. There's still nothing like them. Oh, I don't know what to say. It's not like, we had all of the same talking points, like, go vote. Well, we voted, and we damn now know how liked that man is. So I guess go read. Go read, go do whatever makes you feel better. Be like Ina and do whatever you want. Don't let anyone bully you or guilt you out of it. Yeah, and just breathe and just stare into space and and process and live how you will. I am already ready for a vacation. I'm going camping for the week for Thanksgiving like I do every year. I have no idea what books that I will pack this time, but over the past several years, I have brought some bangers with me. Hopefully that will remain to be the case this year. Yes, I was saying that I'm short on time. I still am. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for being you. I hope you guys watched the live that I was in with Alex, the Disco King, who is hosting the BookTuber trivia quiz shebang. If not, I will leave the link down below to watch the replay. And yeah, we gotta find the laughs and the fun wherever we can, wherever they may be. Okay, I really gotta go now. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye. Take care.